you're watching DD India and I'm Preeti presenting this edition of Self-Reliant India, a show we get for you every day where we talk of and we discuss and explore and evaluate the opportunities which are in hand in order to achieve Self-Reliant India. When we talk of today's topic, then we will be picking up spectrum auction. Mukesh Ambani's Jio cornered more than half of the telecom spectrum auction by the government over the past 2 days, offering about 57,123 crore rupees to consolidate its holding of the scarce resource that are used to carry mobile call and data signals. Telecom giant Bharti Airtel bid rupees 18,699 crore to pick 355.45 megahertz out of the 855.6 megahertz of radio frequency, giving it the most formidable spectrum holding in the country. Now, when the mobile phone was first launched about 2 decades ago, not many envisioned that such a bulky and expensive device would go on to become one of the world's most indispensable modes of communication. But in spite of its omnipresence, do you know how it functions? Today in Self-Reliant India, we will explore and understand spectrum as a medium in making the country self-reliant. To talk more about it and to discuss, we are joined in by guests. We are joined in by M. Rajendran, he's a telecom expert. We are joined in by Dipanshu Tyagi, he is founder, telecom and public, Wi-Fi consulting. Also, we are joined in by Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee, he is an IT expert. We welcome you all to the show. When we talk of the spectrum auction, Mr. Rajendran, I would want you to begin with you. In layman's terms, I would want you to first acquaint our viewers with what is spectrum. Spectrum auction is one aspect, but I would want you to begin. Let's kickstart this discussion by first, trying to understand what is spectrum and spectrum auction.
Okay, let me explain spectrum. Spectrum is kind of a fuel to run a telecom services, without which no services would be possible, whether voice or data. It's a critical component for communication, especially for telecom operators. Now, understanding spectrum auction, initially when the telecom sector was opened up in 1990s, it was bundled as part of the license. But over the period of years, there has been changes in terms of policies, in terms of the kind of demands which had come from the operators, and as well as the need, requirements, to reach out to the rural area. So accordingly, the spectrum auction was, fine-tuned by the government over a period of years. So that's a basic understanding of spectrum and spectrum auction.
To Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee, he is IT and telecom expert. So when we talk of, where are we standing now from launching mobile phones 2 decades ago to this day when, the largest spectrum auction was held, I would want you to tap for us the journey which spectrum allocation in the country has seen, the journey so far.
See, this is 25 years of both cellular mobile phone as well as the internet in the country, public internet in the country. In fact, precisely 15th August 1995 was the day when both these services started. And over this period of years, the marriage of both these technology has taken us towards, what we all see and participate in, a semblance of digital India where, we have just seen how we all manage everything in the nation in a pandemic of that scale. So all that has been possible because, we were in time distributing or rather allocating or rather selling the spectrum to the prospective parties under the licensing regime. And over all these years, that we have seen that the demand for spectrum has never fallen. Always first you had the 2G services, the 3G to 4G, and now we are talking about 5G. Now, each of these generations, the enablement of various functions and capabilities have been quite enormous and quite visible. We started from a normal cellular telephony call with huge rates either for incoming or outgoing. And today, we are a nation with one of the lowest data cost, and the seamless integration of data, voice, and every possibilities in which we can communicate via the various platforms. So the journey of this 25 years using the spectrum allocated on a timely basis. So right now, the last NIA was issued in 2016, and yesterday
Yes.
we concluded NIA 2021. And if you see the three bidders who have participated and taken up spectrum now over the last decade, of course, Geo is a new addition, but you can see the pace at which people's participation, people's involvement has been in terms of using the services. It's not a urban phenomenon anymore for the last 5-6 years. It's preponderantly across the country, and today more and more services getting digital India. The mission mode program of the government is going to far-flung areas where last mile connectivity again would be more or less mobile connectivity to a great extent, and all of that has been supported by wise spectrum allocation. But however, I would still think that the pricing mechanisms, the need to do the whole auction in a very, very transparent way, these are some very important issues, and at least this government has shown how everything has been done in a very, very proper methodical way.
All right, I'll come back to this point in a while from now, but at present I'll bring in Mr. Tyagi in the conversation. Sir, when we talk of the auction, the telecom spectrum which was auctioned, total bids were received worth 77,814.8 crore. Now this auction, in this auction, 6 rounds were held. To begin with, your initial comments, your take on the largest auction held in the country first.
Yeah, so I think it was quite interesting in the way the final results of this auction came out, and as
what they on the expected lines?
Yeah, they actually exceeded the expectation across industry, right? Considering the state that the telecom industry had been going through, and if you look at the outcome of this auction, it is very, very pleasantly surprising the positive nature that the telecom operators have shown in making such large bids totaling up to 77,800 crores. And I think to me the most interesting part is the fact that spectrum bands like 800, 900 and 2300 took away majority of the spectrum bids, which clearly indicates 3 factors. One, that there is a very clear roadmap towards 5G that the operators are working towards. Second is that they are working further more aggressively towards improving their indoor coverage. And lastly, the 2300 megahertz spectrum, where nearly 17% of the auction was picked up, indicates that there is more focus on mobile broadband, and the operators expect that a lot of consumption around mobile broadband will continue to happen. So I think for me, these were key takeaways. One was the fact that the outcome exceeded expectations, and second, these 3 bands where a lot of interest and a large volume was picked up, clearly indicating the forward-looking nature of the telecom operators in these 3 areas.
All right, the forward-looking nature of the telecom, telecom companies. What led to not much interest being shown in the 900 megahertz band?
Yeah, so I think again limited views there, but the fact that there is already existing spectrum there, and the fact that infrastructure deployment in that spectrum is a little higher, I think the operators wanted to strengthen their presence across other bands, like I said, 800, 900, and 2300, and hence. If you see, so 900 took away, I think, around 10%, which is not very small, but yeah, comparatively, as compared to 800, it is little lower, but it is still, I think, quite significant.
All right, Mr. Tyagi, I would want you to also elaborate more on now. We began by acquainting our viewers with spectrum and spectrum allocation. After
Right.
this, the interest which it must have generated, given the fact, the revenue which it generated for the government, it must have, hit the fancy of many of our viewers. What next is to be done? How is this to be brought, in reality? The spectrum has been auctioned, bids have been made. Now what next in line?
So I think if I've got the numbers correct, around 28,000 crores out of the 77,800 crore is the upfront payment
Yes.
that needs to be made as for this auction, right? So that obviously from a government and from an economy standpoint will be a significant boost that it will provide. And I think from a consumer point of view, if you really look at it, I think what this will really do is that the quality of service will further improve. The network penetration will further improve. Some areas where network penetration today is either weak or not present, we would see that network coverage will be present in those areas. And it clearly, I think, also indicates a very, very strong element that all the three players, Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone, are investing heavily into expanding their infrastructure, while Vodafone has made a comparatively smaller bid, which is quite understandable considering the financial position they are in. But the fact that they did not stay away from the spectrum auction in itself is a positive indication. So I think from a consumer point of view, very, very good signals. We can expect better coverage, we can expect faster mobile internet, and fundamentally all of us know that better mobile internet, better connectivity always in a longer run impacts our GDPs.
Yes, they impact our GDPs. Mr. Rajendran, when we talk of the participation of the foreign players, how was it in this year's auction, in this time's auction?
I mean,
Did they have an important role to play?
see, there were three major players who had participated in this auction in terms of telecom services. And telecom has always attracted foreign players into India in terms of the infrastructure in the early days. But over a period of time, the telecom sector has been talking about shake-up happening and, kind of consolidation happening. So what we have seen this year is a consolidation of operators.
Yes.
And if you see the use of spectrum would be more efficient, we have had cases of where operators, I mean foreign operators or foreign players or Indian players picking up spectrum and then sitting on it without using it, which was a kind of it was a loss not only for the nation but also for the subscribers, who would have got a better service if that option had been properly allocated or had been picked up by the operators who had the ability to invest or expand the services. Now with three players, the customer has a better choice in terms of the quality of service. As Mr. Tyagi also mentioned, the quality of service is going to be the determinant in terms of how the telecom services will go. And as far as foreign players are concerned, I would like to highlight as 5G services expand and the network is available, we will see different kind of foreign players, not only the operators but also what we had been thinking of, spectrum being available for various kind of services. There has been talk of spectrum being made available for health services in rural areas. We spoke of Atmanirbhar,
Yes.
spectrum being made available for MSMEs for setting their own networks, in terms of connecting their offices and other things. So, it has opened up new opportunities and avenues, not only just for foreign players, but for even domestic players.
All right, it has opened new opportunities for domestic players. I'll take this forward to Mr. Bhattacharjee. Sir, there is this optimism which has been hinted by Mr. Rajendra. I would want you to take it forward. What does this sector hold, in the near future, in line with the country's aim of becoming self-reliant? Internet today, connectivity is not just limited to mobile phones or telecom. There is this idea of taking internet to every village, every remote area of the country. Your take on that first?
Yeah, absolutely. I think both my fellow panelists have very eloquently mentioned about the quality of service. I think it's a very important point as we move forward, because while you can go to a lot of places around the country, you can spread around, but then if you don't have the quality of service, this would be one of the very major deterrent in that whole effort, to be self-reliant, to be Atmanirbhar. Now, as you would have seen, and the pandemic, last year was one of the big eye openers for the digital space, where a lot of people who have never ever thought that they will get into the digital bandwagon started participating in some form, either got initiated into online commerce, either had to do the work from home activity, or even children doing those classes and all. So that in turn has generated a lot of confidence among a lot of people, which now in this time, when we have far much more relaxed scenario from a lockdown situation, we see that a large number of people have jumped into the networks doing activities online. And that's where, as more and more people we take in, as more and more services come in, we are at a point of time where we are looking at 5G very, very closely. So many countries have done it. In fact, I would think that the next step that the government will move very closely would be to auction even for 5G. But now, before that, I had seen you had asked the question to Mr. Tyagi also about the bands at which the purchase was far much better. But even if you know that even in two bands, 700 and 2500, we didn't get a single bid also. That also brings us to the question, while spectrum fetches the revenue for the government, it is a perishable item or commodity. We have also to see if somewhere around the pricing around the spectrum also we could have something better. For example, in the 700 megahertz, if you note from the 56,000 rupees, 56,000 crores for 5 megahertz, bringing it down to 28,000 also didn't get any bids. So now, how do we equitably or how do we optimally take forward whatever spectrum is available? It's fine. Mr. Rajendra had mentioned about how the operators actually operating on the ground, having the spectrum always helps in the scenario. And of course, the harmonization of the spectrum around bands, that is also been attempted in this country. But how now we utilize our spectrum optimally? How do we get the services roll out far much faster? Digital India is something that is very close to the Prime Minister's heart, and I can see far-flung areas, whether it's the Northeast or even faraway places where a lot of people are getting into the bandwagon, where they're using the networks, to display their products, to get into the business mode. So many kind of beneficial activities are happening to people who wouldn't have been possible. So now, for a lot of them, the mobile connectivity, whether it's mobile broadband or even whatever way they're using the mobile, that is still the only mode of connectivity. If they don't have quality, then halfway through a transaction they get the connection snapped, and then not only they get stuck, but that confidence also goes down. So this is all of these things all work in unison, and that's where how we look at the future, because in the future, on the clarion call of the Prime Minister and the work on the ground towards Atmanirbharta requires this whole bandwidth availability and spectrum to be far much better utilized. The operators also have to have the muscle and comfort to be able to do more things rather than always, remaining around the whole pricing story and all. So I think by and large, the government has really done a good thing. I would still think that maybe they should start thinking that how do they possibly go to the spectrum allocation, maybe not every 5 years, but maybe every 1 year or 2 year. Mr. Tyagi is best suited to even answer on that. And of course, the 5G spectrum rollout, I think that has to be sooner than later.
All right, we'll talk about it with Mr. Tyagi as well. I'll take that forward to him. But at present, we're heading for a very short commercial break. Up next in Self-Reliant India, we will talk about more with regard to spectrum auction. Stay with us. You're watching DD India.
नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्ते लैंड
मरहबन इलल हिंद
जरी इंडिया
सलाम इंडिया नमस्ते इंडिया
नमस्कार भारत
मुई इंडिया नहनु हुनूर
इंडिया
माँ हिंदी हस्ती हिंदियानी
सलाम हिंदुस्तान
वी आर इंडिया
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India, and today we are discussing spectrum allocation and how this can be a medium for achieving self-reliance for the country. We're joined in by three guests. We're joined in by Mr. M. Rajendran. He is a telecom expert. We're joined in by Mr. Dipanshu Tyagi. He is founder, Telecom and Public Wi-Fi Consulting. And we're also joined in by Mr. Subimal Bhattacharjee, IT and telecom expert. Mr. Tyagi, let's take the point forward to you before we headed for the break. How to optimally use spectrums and to realize, which would in turn be very crucial to realize the dream of a digital India. What are the loopholes? What are the challenges? And how is it to optimally used? A while back, you were also talking of how some bands have been, have been bid with the highest value, and some have not been able to, attract attention. Why was it so? And what has to be done to optimally use the spectrum already available?
Yeah, so I think the interest in spectrum, not only in this auction, but ever since the spectrum auction started, are directly related to the business case of a telecom operator. What does an operator look forward to? So if a particular spectrum offers them an exciting business case, they will go all out for it, as we've this time around seen, let's say in the 800 or 2300 megahertz. Whereas some of the other spectrums, for which they do not see an immediate business case, possibly are a little bit in the cold storage. So if you look at 5G, 5G is still some time away, and this is my personal view that any operator would possibly shy away from investing billions of dollars into something which is few years down the line. However, they have started taking tiny steps towards 5G. Hence, they have gone in for bands like 800, 900, and 2300 megahertz. And 5G, as all of us know, to begin with, will impact the IoT ecosystem more as compared to the mobile broadband ecosystem, because speeds on 4G are anyways fast enough. So I think, like I said, the interest in spectrum is always related to the business case. As far as efficiency goes, I think operators in India have done a wonderful job of farming their spectrum in a very effective manner. I think globally the Indian telecom ecosystem is today looked up to how we migrated from 2G to 3G and then very, very quickly migrated from 3G to 4G. in fact, also utilizing some of the existing spectrums
Yes.
to deploy 4G. So I think in terms of efficiency, operators in India are an expert at that. Obviously, some support from government or from local bodies in terms of making right of way approvals easier, making right of way commercials a little more easier could always help the operators in expanding their networks, because all said and done, the spectrum is supported by mobile towers, which in turn are backhauled using fiber. So I think if I really have to pick up one point, I think right of way could be one that could help operators spread their network faster and deploy a more efficient network across India.
All right, I'll take that forward to Mr. Bhattacharjee. Sir, your take on that, what is to be done from here on? From a spectrum allocation on auction on one hand to taking the result to the consumer, say in a far-flung area, a lot of infrastructure has to be put in place. And what is it like when we talk of the road from the auction to the end consumer?
Yeah, well, Mr. Tyagi mentioned a very important point about the right of way. We generally isn't the best and the easiest way to handle, particularly with the various municipalities and the local bodies having their own, adjustments and arrangements to make. So I think, that's something the central government by far today is able to get the states to, participate and deliver in a lot of the requirements that require a certain harmonization. Otherwise, this everything gets delayed. So that is one part. But apart from that, that whatever effort today is happening in terms of getting more services in place, getting more of a local level participation, in various kind of ventures, you can say, where you are involving the people, you are getting them to be a part of whatever ecosystem that you are trying to build up. And that's where the steps are right, but maybe at a far much local level, a far much more involvement, awareness drives, all of these things have to happen. Parallelly with that, around cyber security and how people get into a habit of cyber hygiene, all of that thing also comes up. But leaving aside that, at this point of time, what we need is to see that many of the investments that the government is making, either directly or through public-private partnerships, are some things that have to be even also optimally used. The common service centers across the country, I know there are points where a lot of enthusiasm gets generated on the ground in the rural areas to be able to understand about how somebody can take their venture forward. The agriculture sector is something that has been happening through those ventures. The efforts at telehealth and understanding how they can get better support on health. Now these are some of the things that happen at a much more wider public delivery platform, and within that also you see that we have been able to go further. But what is most important would always be that how many more people we bring in. Today we are about 65 to 70% of our population already connected. The way we envisage Digital India going to taking the broadband down to the panchayats and then getting everyone involved in all of that. I think what's important is that the balanced play of everything, the operators providing quality of services and services down to the last mile, the different applications that come up, the different business ventures that come up, all of that, whether it is a village to a town to a city, all of that have to happen seamlessly. So I think on the whole, that understanding is there as far as the government is concerned, and in many cases the state governments themselves are complementing a lot to what the central government has been doing. So a lot of their own efforts through their IT departments, through their skilling departments, are actually able to bring in a lot of people into that whole bandwagon, who use the available spectrum, who use the services, to reach out to wider markets, or even in terms of education and health. So this is a way forward, that Atmanirbharta for a lot of people actually gets satiated and satisfied when you are able to provide him a quality of services to be able to participate.
All right, from here, let's also turn focus on how do we make, India, or for that matter, many countries in the world are already tasting 5G. Where are we standing on the global page? First, I would want Mr. Tyagi to respond to this. In our, run to 5G, where are we standing?
So I think while test deployments have already happened, we saw both Airtel and Jio making certain announcements on this on 5G, and I think my view here is that India would perhaps be one of the first few nations to have a widespread 5G deployment whenever it is necessary. We clearly see that operators are not rushing into deployment of 5G, primarily because there is enough 4G available right now, and significant use cases have to develop for the 5G deployment to make economic sense for the operators. Let's not forget that while there is a lot of positivity today because of the spectrum auction, but the sector overall is under massive debt, and with the current spectrum auction, the debt levels are only going to increase. So I think it is a very, very prudent view that the operators are taking in ensuring that 5G is deployed at the right time and not before time. Globally, if we see, only a handful of countries have started deploying test 5G networks in certain pockets. 5G standards are still taking their own shape, and a global standard still hasn't firmly come into place. Jio has announced their progress in the 5G technology, wherein they obviously are stating that a lot of it is being done in-house. Airtel, on the other hand, we saw when they deployed 4G, is very, very efficient on technology deployment, and they already have done 5G test in Hyderabad. So I think, like I said, India will be a front runner in 5G deployment, in creating use cases around 5G, both in terms of mobile broadband, in IoT, and in creating a use case which will not only impact the economy in a positive direction, but also will help citizens access basic services like healthcare and all of the other services.
Yes.
Telecom in India is, I think, a prime example of Atmanirbharta. We have 2.5 out of 3 operators who are Indian, who obviously have been creating technology, creating this vast network across India to ensure that today a large population of our country accesses very high quality of mobile access, and at prices which are not seen anywhere in the world. So I think this is the best example, and I'm extremely confident that the industry will continue to lead from this front and deploy a very efficient 5G when the right time comes.
All right, Mr. Rajendra, would you also buy this confidence which is being oozed out by Mr. Tyagi when we talk of India's run up to 5G?
Well, I'll beg to differ on the commercial aspects of the service, because to one point, I'll just take forward what Mr. Tyagi said, that operators are little, not confident of investing at this moment because there are applications not available, the use cases are not available. The critical part of India not able to get onto the 5G bandwagon, despite running with the spectrum and other things in a much faster manner than others. We have to understand one thing. What are the benefits of 5G? If you see the worldwide examples, the 5G there are parts of 5G, you could be slicing the 5G. I mean, it's a technical term, but what I have been told by the people who understand the technology more closely or have been following closely is that you can create a 5G for specific uses. If India has to succeed, you have to slice the 5G spectrum in such a way that certain services, say for example, and it is closely connected to Atmanirbhar. Say for example, if a school or an institution or set of institution wants to have a certain spectrum, they should be able to get that kind of a spectrum, so either provided by the operators or by what we call or by the government, or some kind of a institution has to be created. Probably Telecom Regulatory Authority of India has to look into this thing. Why I'm saying we used to, or we still have what is called CUG, or closed user group, but that is mostly using the fiber network. Now with 5G, it has the power, it has the capability. So the possibilities are plenty, but that comes with a cost. My personal understanding or view is that 5G would be adopted by the IT companies first, because they are the ones who are going to use it for AI and all the new applications which are required. So probably the IT companies and the companies which require more processing would be the ones who would be using the 5G services. Then it would come down to, if we allow just the private operators to run it, then the health services and the education and so on.
Right.
Going to the rural areas is not going to happen, because it will require a huge investment, and that is going to be critical. Even today, if you go to rural areas, you cross certain paths out of the metros, the network doesn't exist. I mean,
Yes.
we have had, I shouldn't be saying funny stories, but stories of ministers climbing onto the, terrace and making calls because the network is not available. We have stories of people climbing onto the trees to do their tele-education.
Yes.
So we don't certainly need those kind of situations. What we need is 5G for me. I as a consumer want to use 5G services, whatever applications come. That is going to be so. I have apprehensions that we will be getting 5G so soon.
Okay. So I guess they're buying more time when we talk of when can the country be 5G enabled. We'll talk more about it, but at present we are heading for a very short commercial break again. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India. Stay with us. We'll be back after a short break.
A global pandemic that's causing havoc worldwide. Search for an effective vaccine is on. Until then, the only option is caution and prevention. Now that the country has opened up under Unlock 5, it's all the more critical that we don't let our guard down. Face mask has been found to be the most effective means to fight the spread of COVID-19. World Health Organization and various researchers have also found that masks are critical in mitigating the spread of COVID-19. When you wear a mask, you protect yourself and people around you. Wearing a face mask helps prevent the spread of COVID-19, but only if worn properly.
बिना मास्क या फेस कवर के घर से बाहर निकलने की अभी कल्पना करना भी सही नहीं है।
Be a part of DD India campaign. Mask Up India. Come and join our initiative to fight COVID-19. Share your stories of masking up with us on Facebook and Twitter.
Mask Up India.
It's a simple task. Just wear a mask.
Mask Up India.
Mask Up India.
Mask Up India.
Welcome back after the break. You're watching Self-Reliant India on DD India, and today we're talking of spectrum auction. Mr. Tyagi, when we talk of spectrum auction this year, now this was for the first time that 3 private telecompanies were bidding. Added to that, what do you gauge of the competition in the sector? We're talking of optimism, we're talking of progress, and how promising could this sector prove to be. But, 3 private companies bidding together in the auction did lead to some consolidation in the telcos as well. But added to that, it also led to completely exiting of some other telecompanies. So your take on that, and also, the scope, or, what could be the scope of the PSUs here in the sector?
Yeah, so I think from a mobility space, the whole industry obviously has now consolidated between 3 players plus BSNL, I can say.
Yes.
And, BSNL, I think once they launch 4G, would be considered a formidable player. But today, if you see, the market is distributed between Jio, Airtel, and Vodafone
yes.
Idea. So I think this is a fact. This is how the industry is now structured, and I think this is how the mobility industry will remain structured for a long period of time. I don't anticipate any new competition to come into place. Having said that, I think these 3 operators within themselves are good enough to ensure that there is good, healthy competition. We saw Airtel place bids for 18,700 crores, which was, in fact, if you read the commentary around the spectrum, this has stood out, and it has surprised everyone in terms of the high amount of investment that Airtel has done for the spectrum. Vodafone Idea, while the amount is extremely less, which is only around 2,000 crores, but again, as I said at the beginning of the program, it clearly indicates that they are in it for the long run. They are wanting to plug the gaps which are present in their network. So I think competition between these 3 players will remain to be healthy. Consumers will benefit with new services, with better reach. And hopefully in the near term, whenever BSNL gets their 4G, we will also have a 4th competition that we are added into this ecosystem.
Okay, my next question is to Mr. Bhattacharjee. Sir, to this day, spectrum auction has, come to be one of the great revenue earners for the government, for the government. But also, in the past, we've seen the 2G spectrum scam happen. So, I would want you to talk more about accountability in this whole auction process. You were talking of transparency. You were talking of how, the government has conducted the auction smoothly. But where does that accountability factor? How crucial is that? Because through the 2G spectrum scam, we also, had to come to terms with huge figures of the loss which was incurred by the government.
Well, I think this is very, very crucial, because Narendra Modi and the government's pitch all through has been to provide a clean government.
Yes.
And as you are aware, in the 2G scam, whatever has happened has taken a lot of toll on Manmohan Singh's government, despite his own personal integrity. But if you see even this auction and the way everything is transparently put out on the websites and all, if you go to the Telecom Ministry's website around the whole spectrum, each and every detail, each and every document that is put out, everywhere it is very, very clearly laid out. So that this is something that is absolutely important for having public confidence, because there's so much of money at stake. This spectrum, after all, is a very scarce resource, and and there cannot be any wrongdoing in the whole process. So I think this is also a larger message that, one, you are able to do things on time, you are able to do things with efficiency, you are able to do such a bidding in complete transparency. And if you look at the way even the consolidation around the whole space is happening and all, I think that also adds to the transparency factor that comes in as far as the industry is concerned, because only the serious players are going to bid when such high cost of spectrum has been put in. So the way everything has been planned, the way everything has been executed, I think it gives a lot of public confidence too, that what is being attempted and what is being practiced and what was promised when the government came to power, that has been maintained. And hopefully even in the future, all of the future auctions, not only related to spectrum, but in anywhere wherever so much of public resources, public activities are involved, that's the confidence that is being given. So I think it is very, very important. Even the NIA 2016 was without any kind of controversies, so that transparency factor was there. So today the digital space offers you all of this opportunity to put everything out transparently and conduct an auction also in that right, clean process.
All right, I'll take that forward to Mr. Rajendra. Sir, would you also echo the same thought, when we talk of transparency? Have times changed when we talk of the bidding which was done in 2016 and this bid as put against, the scam which we had to face, the 2G spectrum scam? So things have changed for good?
Absolutely, absolutely. In terms of, I'll just take forward what Mr. Bhattacharjee said. The global business confidence,
Yes.
is critical for India to attract investment. And please remember, telecom is a very, very critical sector worldwide. And this sector attracts, kind of has a ripple effect. Whatever happens in the telecom sector, there is a ripple effect in the other sectors also, because it gives you the confidence. And not only India, post-COVID, the whole global business is going to be on digital. And, when you have this kind of transparent system of auction without any controversies, it is certainly going to bring in the confidence among the investors in other sectors where the auction is going to be conducted. And as Mr. Bhattacharjee pointed, and we have seen this, that you could go to the site and you could see the bidding happening, and there is nothing even for a layman to understand, just go and see the kind of transparency that it brings. The second point which I would like to submit is that telecom as a sector in India started with controversies. It had remained in controversies for various reasons, but in the past few years, we have seen that the lesser the controversies, the better the sector has performed. It has given confidence not only to the public, but also to the operators to go out and make investments. It has also attracted possible investors in these companies who wanted to pick up stake. So there are positives which we see in this.
All right, you're talking of the positives which we see in this. Very quickly, we have come to the fag end of the program. But before we bring in your closing comments of the guests here, we'll inform our viewers that we know that from Monday onwards, the second drive of the second stage of the vaccination drive has been initiated, has been started, and it has been getting a good response, wherein people and citizens above 65 years of age are being vaccinated, and above 45 years of age with comorbidities are being vaccinated. And we saw Prime Minister getting himself inoculated, and today we have President of India Ramnath Kovind getting himself inoculated. Here we have the visuals coming in from the Army Hospital, wherein President Ramnath Kovind is getting himself inoculated. When the leaders of the country get themselves inoculated, get themselves vaccinated, it gives them a strong message for the rest of the countrymen to follow, because time and again the government has been urging the citizens, urging the people to get themselves vaccinated, and the Prime Minister set the tone as well. And here today we have President Ramnath Kovind getting himself inoculated at Army Hospital. What is to be noted is that there is a sense of calm, there is a sense of composure, which is being witnessed here when the President is getting himself inoculated. So no stress, no anxiety there, and it again serves as an assurance for the rest of the country to follow when it comes to the vaccination drive. This is a very decisive stage of the fight against COVID-19, wherein the country has inoculated and has inoculated a considerable number of people. And also, even as we speak, we tell you that words of appreciation and praise have been coming in from the rest of the countries as well, from the WHO as well, when we talk of the fight against the pandemic which we have put forth. President Ramnath Kovind getting himself inoculated at Army Hospital. And this comes when the second stage of vaccination drive is already in progress in the country, wherein 65 years of age, people above 65 years of age are being inoculated, and also people above 45 years of age with comorbidities. Now, when we talk of the process of vaccination, the interested person needs to register himself with the COVID portal, and from there, after fulfilling the requirements, after filling in the requirements, in fact, the date will be allotted to the concerned person, and for the first dose, and after 28 days the second dose has to be administered, and that would complete the process of inoculation. So here you have on our screens President Ramnath Kovind, all smiles there as he gets himself inoculated. A picture there oozing out calm, oozing out composure, oozing out confidence in the vaccination procedure, in the vaccination drive which has been initiated by the country. And also, when we talk of the fight against COVID-19, we tell you that yes, we are at a decisive stage, and the government has been urging people, both the Prime Minister and President getting themselves inoculated speak a volume, to shun the rumors, to shun the rumor mongers as well, who have been casting vague doubts on the efficacy of the vaccine. From here we go back across to our guests who've joined us for Self-Reliant India. Today we're talking of spectrum auction. Sir, we've approached the fag end of the program. Very quickly we'll have in closing comments from all three of you. To begin with, Mr. Tyagi, we're talking of the ambitious opportunities ahead for the country. We're talking of ambitious Atmanirbhar Bharat. We're talking of digital India. The road ahead when we talk of achieving all this.
Telecom is an enabler for the country in various aspects, whether it is economy, whether it is GDP, whether it is employment, whether it's startups. The new initiative we see, nearly all of them run on the telecom backbone as one of the key requirements. We've seen in the COVID times during lockdown how the telecom industry really stood up tall and supported the whole country in functioning in a very seamless manner as if nothing had happened. There was surge in demand, but the industry did everything it could to ensure that the country could keep working. So I think, like I said, the best example of Atmanirbharta is the telecom industry, and I think as we move forward, we will see the industry, not only the mobile players, but even the other allied industry, go from strength to strength, create more employment, contribute more towards the country's GDP, and take the country to higher levels.
All right, Mr. Rajendra, in your closing comments, any challenges, any obstacles that have to be ironed out to achieve self-reliance in terms of telecom sector?
Yeah, we have been speaking about spectrum.
Yes.
I would like to park my suggestion and views as far as telecom equipment is concerned. I strongly feel there is a huge opportunity for telecom equipment to get the kind of support it requires. Particularly, there is a challenge and there is an opportunity. And if the government takes the right steps and provides the right support, having covered this sector for more than 2 decades, I am quite confident that we can replicate the same success what we have shown in the telecom services in telecom manufacturing also. There are so many entrepreneurs
Yes.
who are waiting to enter the telecom manufacturing.
All right. So telecom manufacturing is also one, one arm of the same thought process. From here, Mr. Bhattacharya, your closing comments on the road ahead, the journey ahead.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, it was delightful to see Honorable Rashtrapati ji getting his jab of vaccine that is made in the country, manufactured in the country, and then hundreds and thousands of people across the country today are registering for, getting their jabs using the CoWIN, application,
Yes,
which
CoWIN
is
app.
again an Atmanirbharta project where a lot of the MSMEs and individuals have been involved through a competition to participate. So this has been facilitated by our telecom networks. So these are live examples of how, we have utilized things. The future, of course, remains very bright. A lot of people will be a part of the bandwagon, as I have repeated earlier too. And what we all need to ensure that we have quality of service and more participation and a healthy cyberspace, digital space in the country.
All right. So quality of service and more participation is what is suggested by you. Thank you so much, all of you, for joining us on Self-Reliant India this afternoon. So that was our panel talking more about what holds further for the telecom sector, given the fact that spectrum auction, one of the biggest spectrum auctions which was held, and that also, our panelists oozing out confidence, oozing out how promises in the near future could this sector be for realizing self-reliant India, Atmanirbhar Bharat. On that note, we'll end this edition here. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.